Coach Chris. Oh,
Hey,
Coach
hey,
Christo. What is good?
what's up, Andres? How you doing? Where are you?
I'm good. Today we are live from New Hampshire. I was about to say New Hampshire, Massachusetts. I think Nashua, New Hampshire. Um, Price Cafe. We're enjoying hot black coffee and everything bagel with cream cheese, but they put too much cream cheese. So that's how I am. How are you?
There's no such thing as too much cream cheese, Andres.
You're right.
No, I'm doing well. Had a good session last night with Luke and the O6s.
Luke always elevates the joy of a session.
Yeah, true.
What are you
Always
drinking?
fun. Just a coffee, and I got
You're a
my
coffee
water.
guy.
Yeah.
What do you put in it? Milk, half and half. Black.
Either black or sometimes just milk. Yeah.
Okay. No sugar?
No, never sugar.
Never sugar, really.
Never. You know what
Interesting.
the greatest joy in my life is having, well, maybe not the greatest joy, but is having something like a nice pastry or some sort of
You're like
sweet.
maybe
And
you're like maybe not the greatest story. I just had a kid.
I know. And a hot black coffee. Just, I don't know, the combination of the two.
Before every single Things Row practice, I have a banana loaf warmed and a short hot black coffee, and it just gets me through the whole night.
Yeah, it is very, very good.
Coach Crystal, what are we talking about today?
All right. We are talking about a pre-match ritual that we both have or had and did before we played in games. So I think you went.
What's a ritual?
What's
What's
a
a ritual?
ritual? I don't know. I think once you've done it enough times, it becomes a ritual, right? Once you kind of you can't not do it, or you feel weird if you don't do it. I think that's where it becomes, like something like a little ritual. So I think you went first.
How do you?
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
I went
ahead.
first. Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, how do you feel about that in general?
Like, I think it can depend. So I've seen athletes do things before games that I think are not very helpful, but at the same time, like I think having it can be comforting. So something I see a lot of like videos like how to never miss a penalty again, or from a goalkeeper's perspective, how to put an attacker off when they're taking a penalty or something. It's always like messing with that ritual that you have before taking a penalty. So like, like the Hope Solo thing where she like changed her gloves like twice or whatever it was. And it took
Oh, really?
like 3 minutes for the attacker to take the penalty. It can kind of like just like put you off a little bit, or like, the goalkeeper like leaving their line, going out, like standing in front of the ball, delaying the kick and stuff. I think that, so I think that there can be things that you maybe like feel that like you need to do that can be somewhat destructive. But I think that, as long as it's something you can do that's in your control, and you're not like, it's not something that's kind of controlled by other people. So that's why I like to say,
Okay.
why we're talking about a pre-match ritual, not something maybe we do during a game, because then there's like too many factors going on. But like, you are in control of if you get to the field early or not. Hopefully, maybe your parents are if you're a kid. But you can be like me, making sure my parents are waking up early to get me to my soccer game when I was a kid, or now driving myself there, or whatever it was, catching the team bus, making sure I was on time for that, like getting to the field early to do what you think you need to do to be ready to play. And I think that one very underrated thing, because it's very kind of obvious and like kind of really straightforward. Like being well prepared will make you feel confident. So like if you know I got a good night's sleep, I ate well, I did this, I did that. If you know you're prepared for something, whether it's like waking up to take the SATs or a soccer game or a job interview or whatever it is, if you're like rushing last minute, like you're driving and you're like, see on the GPS, you're going to be 5 minutes late. Like these things just like add to stress. Like being well prepared can help. And having some sort of ritual that you are in control of, you can do, which is what mine is, can build that sense of being prepared for what's about to happen. As long as, I said, you're in control of it and you don't let anyone else like mess up, your what you're doing.
I think, yeah, that's a big piece of it. If it's not in your control, I don't know that it's healthy.
Yeah.
So tell us what was your ritual? And wait, what at what age did it start, first of all?
Probably it would have been at about 14. So I was playing in Greece, and it's funny. I have a lot of stories. A lot of the stories I tell are from a time in my career that wasn't like super positive. Even though I was playing at a pretty high level, but I had some issues with mostly with my coach. It's not like a coach that I feel very close to. We don't speak anymore. I haven't spoken in more than a decade.
Does he follow you on TikTok? He probably doesn't even on TikTok.
Probably.
He's probably the one that reported you.
Yeah, true. But I do think that even though I didn't like him very much, there's a lot of things that I took from him. A lot of advice that I took from him. Some I agree with, some I disagree with, but I definitely learned a lot. One thing, he was insane about getting to the field early. We had to get to the field an hour and 45 minutes before kickoff. We were 14. Yeah. Okay. Whether we were, and we traveled, all over Greece. So we were taking, buses, planes. We took a bus for like 10 hours once, and, stayed the night at a hotel. But no matter where we were, no matter if the game was at 10 in the morning, didn't matter. We were getting there an hour and 45 minutes before kickoff. And if you weren't there, you weren't playing. If you were a minute late, you weren't playing. We had a big squad. So we had every week we had our 18 that we had to announce for, the 11 starters, 7 subs. And there would be at least 10 players who weren't allowed to put on their boots or their, uniform or whatever. They would still travel. If we traveled, we'd usually take 22 kids. So we'd have 4 that traveled, but didn't even get to sit on the bench.
This has nothing to do with rituals, but I did that. So I was coaching an ECNL team a few years back, and I did that in order to create some competition inside of training, and so that you have to earn dressing on the weekends. You cannot imagine, after the first game, I had like a crowd of parents just ready to just like, why are you doing this? We're paying the same amount of money. And then it lasted like, some kids quit. It lasted like 2 weeks before we just had enough players to have 18. But it's so interesting that that's the norm. Like you have 10 over there, and then 4 that always don't dress. And here it's just, anyways, back to your.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. And it was, super competitive. And I remember going into on Friday afternoons, or it would, depending when the game was, if it was Saturday or Sunday, but if we had training, the last day of training for the week. So say we were playing on Saturday and it was a home game, we'd have a light session on Friday. And when we walked back into the locker room after the training session, there was the list of 20 names or 22 names, 1 through 18 were the players who were supposed to be on the bench. And then if you were number 19, maybe if someone's late, you're getting on the bench, but that's it. That stress, oh my goodness. I remember every time seeing my name at number like 13 or 14 instead of like 18, I was like, yeah, let's go. It's like it was like a report card almost of like how your training week had gone.
If I was when did they put the list? The night before or
the last day of training for the week? So say we were playing on Saturday, it'd be Friday afternoon. So we trained at like 5 and it'd be there at like 6 or 7.
If I was 19, I would have gone and grabbed, I don't know, 18 cleats and like tied them somewhere.
Yeah. But anyway, back to the story. So we were there at the field like an insane, insanely early. And it's not like we were warming up for an hour and 45 minutes, but he wanted us there in the locker room. We'd talk, he'd send us out to the field and we would walk around the field. And we'd just walk around the field. You could do it, with a teammate and talk or whatever, big group, and do by yourself. And we would just walk around the field for like 10 or 15 minutes. And this became my ritual. Whenever I show up anywhere and I'm playing, I have to get out and walk around the field for a couple minutes. The first time I step on the field can't be for the warm up. It can't be, when I'm playing. I have to get out on the field before that, not even in my cleats, just before I've even changed or anything, and just walk around. And I had players who were very, who I kind of like laugh at, like pacing out, like this one guy who was, he was a good player, but he was like pacing out like the steps from the goal to the corner, because he would take corners, and all of this, like checking out like the area around the box. I never saw it as something like that where I'm gonna like, maybe if I haven't ever played on this field before, but he would do this with the field we played on every other week. He would still like pace out, like, what is it? Like 50 steps from the box, the corner flag or something. It's like, it's the same field, dude. Like you don't have to do it every time. But what became my ritual is as I'm walking around, and I would do this by myself, I'd have my headphones on, I'd be listening to some music. And I would just, something we talk about on this podcast a lot is, imagining. I'd close my eyes and imagine what I was going to do on this field if I was in the starting 11, or if I was lucky enough to be in the 18. What I was going to do, how I was going to play. I'd stand in front of the goal and, imagine scoring. I'd stand on the edge of the box, and imagine, shooting from there or, whatever it was. And a lot of the time, I wouldn't even end up playing. So this became like, if I wasn't in the 18, which did happen, this was my game. And I was playing in my head. I wasn't playing it, with my feet. But that just became something that I had to do before I play. I have to show up to the field early. And before I never put my boots on. I never step on the field first with my boots. I'm wearing my sneakers and I go and I just walk around the field, and different points of the field. Here I'll stop, I'll imagine scoring a goal. Here I'll stop, I'll imagine winning the ball back and starting a counterattack. Now I do it, I have a ball at my feet as well, just to kind of make it even more real. But yeah, that's what I have to do. And then we would go back inside, talk again, then come out for the warm up, go back in, talk again, and then we'd go out and play. So it was a long preparation for matches. But that part, it just, I don't even really know why, but it became like, I think that because of all the because like I said, like this wasn't a great moment in my career. Even when I did get chances to play, even when I was like playing well, like the years from like 14 to 17, almost, and maybe 16, almost like sucked the love of the game right out of me, because there was so much stress every week going to training. I knew I had to perform, or I was going to be, you know, number 25 on that list. Every time, you know, I went to a game, if I was sitting on the bench, I knew when I went on, I had to be better than the guy who came off for me. We talked about how like, you know, I had started thinking like negative thoughts about my teammates, like wanting them to mess up because I wanted my chance. And this was that time where it was really, really difficult for me. And these moments, I don't know, you know, because I was still in this, you know, very stressful environment, but something about just getting out on the field and walking around on the field became like almost like an escape from the environment that I was in. You know, I know sometimes you get like, you know, weird looks from my teammates or something, but I was never talking while I was doing this. I put my headphones right on and I was listening to music, and doing this by myself, because it became.
Did you have the same? Did you have any same playlist or same music that would be part of this moment too?
I think it's probably
or a song that comes to mind.
I have to think. There's this Greek rap song that I still listen to a lot, and it's I'm not sure because I'm not sure when it came out. I know I've done, like, if I was going to pick one song that stands out to me, it would be this one, but I'm not 100% sure if it was out when I was doing this. But I know I've used it a lot since. And a lot of the time I literally do just put it on repeat and just listen to that, but not necessarily just when I'm doing this, but also like in my car or something. And it's called Stigmes, which means like moments, which I think is, you know, and it's these, it's actually the group is from the city that I was living in then. And not a very like big group or anything. They're all like kids who are probably around my age, ish. But yeah, the song's called Stigmes, which is moments. And they're talking about, mostly about moments in the past. You know, I kind of like the general vibe is like how much better it was when we were kids or something. And I think that that idea, like I was talking about, like how this was like kind of an escape for me, and how everything else around me was trying to like suck the love of the game out of me. And this moment was like a special moment, and a moment that made me kind of remember why I played. And maybe doing this every week maybe this was a reason that kind of got me through this. Maybe if I didn't have this moment of just walking around on the field by myself, maybe I would have given up, you know, after a couple months of not making the bench, or, you know, having to watch my team from the stands. So yeah, that's, I'll play a little clip in the middle of the song. But yeah, it's a song I still listen to this day. One of my favorite songs of all time.
Τα παιδικά μου χρόνια ήταν από το σχολείο. Γυρνούσα στα σκαλοπάτια του σπιτιού μου, την τσάντα πάντα πετούσα. Ψαχνόμασταν, θυμάμαι, γειτονιά. Και το βραδάκι στις οικόδομες κλέβαμε τα πετά. Για να φτιάξουμε σπιτάκια και τέρματα στις αλάνες. Μόλις νύχτωνε απ' τα μπαλκόνια βγαίναν οι μάνες να μας μαζέψουνε. Να κάνουμε μπάνιο και για να φάμε. Αλλά ακόμα βρωμάμε και από παιχνίδι πεινάμε. Θυμάμαι, ανάμεσά μας δεν υπήρχαν ζήλιες. Τα απογεύματα στο δρόμο πάντα παίζαμε μπίλιες. Κολούσαμε στιγμές σε άλμπουμ ποδοσφαιρικά. Περάσαν χρόνια πολλά. Κλεβάμε κούτες παγωτά. Κι οι γονείς μου με βάζαν τιμωρία. Κι απ' το τζάμι έβλεπα τα παιδιά στη γωνία. Αναμνήσεις παλιές, στιγμές μαγικές. Και τι δεν θα δίνα τώρα να ξαναζούσα στο χθες.
There's something about our senses, um, like when you smell the grass.
Yeah.
Even now,
Especially
like you're
right
you go
when it's
back to
been mowed. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or when you hear a song, or when you see a color, when you taste something like when I was at school and I tasted, which was difficult, but tasted something that tastes like mom's cooking, it would bring back. Sometimes I even try to do that with teams or friends or environments. Like I guess I guess some of my friends are gonna start to catch on, but I'll have specific playlists that like if I drive around like and maybe it's a friend that isn't always around in the area. It's a song that like always not triggers, but in the moment, it's a song that they continue to hear when we're going to eat, when I pick them up. There was one song where like we had training at like 7 a.m. and I would pick up all the Croatian players from their dorm and it would always go on and then like years later that song would go on and like we all went back to that moment. Um, so I think it's interesting that like not only do rituals prepare you for the moment, but it makes that moment transcendent. It helps that moment live longer than it actually was. And I think every moment that we can um, transcend the present, I think we're fully alive, you know? So I wouldn't, I never use rituals necessarily strictly
Yeah. Yeah.
but it was more like of reminders. And they would correlate to soccer or other things. But yeah, I think being okay with that ritual breaking.
Yeah.
Because if for whatever reason they didn't let you stand on the field, like
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're like, oh crap, the game's over. Like I'm gonna have the worst
Well,
game of my life.
now you know, and like, you know, kids, like whenever I'm coaching a game and we go up, like there's always a team playing on the field and there's no room to even warm up, let
Warm up,
alone,
like
you
that's not
know,
even a
like,
ritual. That's like
yeah,
supposed to happen.
I know it's crazy, but, you know, and, you know, you can, you know, I've had to, you know, deal with that. And it's happened to me when I'm playing too, you know, the field is being used, you have to warm up somewhere else, but you know, especially if you've played on the field before, you know, I'll close my eyes for a couple of minutes and imagine myself walking around there, put on the same song, you know, and it can have the same effect. I think being very tied to like certain rituals definitely, you know, isn't a good thing because when those break, then if that affects your performance, you don't want that, you know, because obviously, you know, walking around the field isn't going to make me play better. That's all in my head. But you know, if you know that and you can control it a little bit, whereas like I know like before the other one I was toying with, which would have been kind of like a negative one, is like I used to, you know, put my right sock on, then my left sock, then my right shin guard, then my left shin guard, then put my right boot on, then my left boot, then tie my left boot, then tie my right boot, then tie my left boot. And if I didn't do that, because you know, I was like super like OCD, but you know, and if I didn't do that, I was like, wait, I put my left boot on first, like, you know, it just like.
Or what if you don't remember? You have to like take them off and start again.
Yeah.
What
But
if
you
you
know,
remember mid-game?
yeah, and then like all of a sudden I start playing horribly. But like, you know, I think the the knowing that you're in control of your performance, it doesn't have anything to do with like a pre-match ritual, but if that makes you feel comfortable, if there's a song you like to listen to, you know, I encourage a lot of athletes, you know, to have some sort of playlist that they you know, consistently listen to, if they like using music before competition or, you know, whatever else it is, you know, these things, I think they can definitely have an effect if you use them in an intelligent way.
Yeah, no, I agree. Anything that helps. Sometimes you got to convince yourself or play with your mind. And as a coach, sometimes you have to figure out how to create rituals that are not even noticeable
Yeah.
for the team, and they won't realize it until later on. But it does help. I think we gravitate or we desire, we crave control, and if we feel we're in control, we'll perform a little bit more confident. So it's almost like how can we
Yeah.
make believe that we're in control.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It doesn't have to be the real control as long as you think it's real. You know, what you think is real, oftentimes it is real to you.
Well, to you.
Yeah. I think it's funny because like I know I had this player once and he played like the previous game. We'd had a great game, but we lost, and he had played phenomenally. But he was playing up front, and he had like created all these chances basically by himself, but he missed every single one. And it was just like one of those games where like, he deserves a goal. He knows he deserves a goal. And it's so frustrating to see it happen. And before the next game in the pre-match team talk, I was like, and I don't know, like, I think like looking at it like objectively, I'd be like, maybe that's not like the best thing to say, but it was just like something I knew I had to say in the moment. I said, look, Nate, you played so well the other day. I know you didn't get your goal. You're going to get it today. And he went out and he scored 4 goals. And I was like, it was crazy, but just like I knew that I needed to say that in that moment. It's crazy.
Then he came to you before every game. Right?
Tell me that I'm going to score, coach.
That's when you know you were going to be a coach.
Yeah, true.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about my ritual. Let's get into yours.
Okay, my ritual. I don't know if this is going to be considered a ritual. Which foot is your weaker foot?
Mine?
I know both. You got 2 good feet, but which one is your weaker foot?
Left
foot. Okay. Yeah, I always mess with the idea. Like we all have weaknesses. And like obviously my right foot is significantly better than my left foot, but that never stopped me from going to play pickup. I was walking into a space where I knew I had a evident weakness. And I would still step into the field and have the time of my life, and I still be effective, and I still be a very good player. So I enjoy carrying with me the idea that everywhere I go, I have a weakness with me or on me. But I also have the ability to create and enjoy and make an impact. So I had this ankle bracelet, and I'm very close with Jesus. I guess I see it as like a friendship or as a partnership or it's a relationship. And so I wouldn't call it religious. I don't like religion, but I'm very spiritual. And so the anklet, I guess what you call it, have the last words that Jesus said on the cross, and it is finished. And so that's a phrase that I don't know, I carry everywhere. Just a reminder that Jesus's narrative and the story and what he means. And I would put that anklet would always be on my left foot. And so it would always remind me that in the thing that I do best at, or the thing that I'm best at, there is a weakness that I have to step on every single time I shoot, every single time I run. And it was helpful to know that I could wrap around the last words of someone who was very significant to my approach to life. So I I would always put that on my left foot. And then in college one day, so I would try to tape it so that I wouldn't either get hit by a cleat or ripped off.
You have it outside the sock?
I'd have it. No, I have it inside.
Okay.
Like on my skin, on the skin.
Yeah.
But I'd tape that so that for whatever reason I wouldn't get cleated there and it wouldn't rip. But eventually, like it was supposed to rip at one point anyways.
Yeah.
It can't, because I would shower with it. I would never take it off. And then one day, I was at the trainers and they had a shark, I think it's called. And then they ripped that thing. Like they thought it was just tape for like an ankle, and they took it all off, and there went the bracelet.
Yeah.
And so I felt like a big part was cut there. But
like they took your whole leg off.
Like they took my whole leg off. But I had created this relationship with the bracelet, with the anklet. it was very mental, superficial. But there was something that once after doing it for so long, once they caught it, I was like, oh snap! Like what just happened? Um, so that removed that ritual. But the idea, what the ritual that couldn't be broken or ripped apart was the fact that I'm always gonna step onto um, a soccer field with weaknesses,
Yeah.
you know, and being able to have um, a good soccer player career despite the weakness was really helpful. So I think my ritual, you could say, is the bracelet, or is the reminder that everywhere I step in, I have weakness, and I can still exceed expectations um, with the weakness. So yeah, that's my ritual.
I think that's really interesting. That it's like tied to weakness, because we've talked a lot about or we've like asked ourselves a lot of questions that are like, getting to know yourself. And
Yeah,
the phrase come up like knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And I think I think being it's a lot about being comfortable, and
yeah,
being comfortable with like who you are, is a big thing for life in general. And then also, when you're playing, because playing is, for a lot of us, a big part of our life. Just being able to be comfortable. I think I talk a lot about athletes dealing with stress and this and that. I think that, what you want to perform, the best you can is to be comfortable with who you are, the player you are, the environment you're in. All of these, it's a lot about comfort, whether that's, making an environment more comfortable, like a game environment, because we're talking about like pre-match thing for like, being more comfortable in a stressful environment, or,
yeah,
like I say there's like two sides to that. Like if you want to like be kind of less influenced by stress, is like making stressful environments comfortable, and then making comfortable
yeah,
environments stressful. I think
yeah.
is the flip side of that. Have you ever heard of the Messi and the red ribbon?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's what
yes.
it
That
made me
the
think of.
that
Yeah.
the journalist gave him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy when he asked him and he said yeah, that was crazy. Imagine
and
like,
and he's given it to a couple of his teammates now, right? And every time
oh
he gives
yeah,
it to a teammate, he gave it to a teammate who like hadn't scored in a while or something, and all of a sudden he scored a
no
goal.
way.
He gave it to
I didn't know that.
so it's like
He so he
it's
got so he got it from me.
yeah, definitely. um but it's like that's kind of like what it reminds me of, is like, obviously there's no magic in that red
Yeah,
ribbon that Messi has like got and then he's like passed around to some of his teammates. But if you believe that, the like, not even just that there's magic there, but what it means to you, right? Like, Messi
yeah,
giving that, ribbon that obviously has meaning to him.
yeah,
Now that after he like wore it, giving that to a teammate, what that means to him, or like to the teammate, like Messi giving him something that's important to him, me saying something to my player, like,
yeah,
I expect you to score today, like the expectation, or like the belief that I have in him that he's going to go and succeed, like what that anklet meant to you. I think that like it's not necessarily about like the magic, or like something like,
yeah,
out of this world. It's like about what the meaning something has to you, right? That's what's important.
yeah. And we've talked about this, and it's interesting where you're taking it, because as I think about rituals, it's almost like we're constantly trying to find something that's has, we would call it a magic effect, but something that has more power than the performance itself, something that has more power than soccer. So, for example, Messi in that moment is greater than soccer because Messi gave me this. Soccer's not gonna take over me. Or when I put the anklet on, for me, it's like my relationship with Jesus is greater than any one of my weaknesses. It's finding these things that remind me that there's something greater than soccer. And so as we walk our way into any space, or like when you're trying to figure out rituals, if you do have rituals, I think you're actually in the right path. You're trying to find something that's more important than this temporary craft or this temporary thing that you're about to do, which gives you confidence. And I'm so for that. I'm so for the idea of always find something that's greater than this craft, that's from within you. And for you, I think it was spending time with yourself. Spending time with you was greater than the whole game that was about to happen. You had to detach and walk and be with Christo. And Christo actually took that energy of being greater than what's about to come. So I think I wasn't very for rituals before this conversation, but now I think it taps into searching for something that's more important than sometimes we make soccer or that moment, that event, that game, that training session way more important than it actually is. And then we suffocate and then we drown in that moment. So I guess rituals is just a way to like pop that, and remind yourself that there's something greater than that sport or that craft, you know?
Yeah. So like, is there any like, I don't know, does your mom cook?
She does every day.
All right. So when you walk into your mom's house, what's like the meal that you can smell? That's like the best.
All of them. The thing is I can smell all of them, like, and I know which one it is. There's one it's a soup called sancocho. It's very much from the part of Colombia that we're from. And as soon as you walk in the door and you smell that, you know, I know everything that I'm gonna eat.
Getting home at 10 o'clock from a training session in Tingsboro and it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's
chocolate.
My mom's a good cook, but it's chocolate chip cookies. So when I walk into my parents' house, if I can smell chocolate chip cookies, I'm 10 years old. I'm getting home from school. I just got off the school bus, walked down the driveway, open the door, and I smell chocolate chip cookies. That's where I am. Like I'm there. So like you talked about like, like seeing a color or like a smell or a sound or something. Now, like when I go to a soccer field and I step onto the field and I start walking, I remember every pickup game I ever played in, every actual game I've ever played in, every training session, good and bad. All of these memories are coming back to me. And that's what it's about for me now. It's not about like, obviously, preparation, like getting ready to play, but not physically. It's about getting in that mind of, soccer has been such a huge part of my life. Why has it been such a huge part of my life? It's because I love the game. And all those, and why do I love the game? Because of all the memories that I have. Soccer isn't this, magical thing that like is like, if you took away my memories of playing, I wouldn't love the game. Right. Like it's about the memories and the moments, the Steve mess that I've lived. And that's what I remember when I step on a field now. And if I would ever get to a training session to coach early, which never happens anymore because there's too much traffic, I would take my time and walk around the field as well, just to remember, my love for the game. And then I can go and coach a session. It doesn't have to be me playing anymore. Me coaching now, or, whatever it is. Just that, remembering all the moments.
For the coaches it's good to think about your rituals, because I think the process of going back in time and remembering those gives you a perspective as as to what your players are feeling before the game, or a reminder. Um, and it helps me walk into the space and like, oh, all of my players have weaknesses, and they're still gonna step on the field. And when I get mad at them, um, I have to remind, oh, they have weaknesses. That's fine. I did too. Um, I don't know if they know enough of the weaknesses, but maybe it's part of the process for me to help them be comfortable with those weaknesses. And then for you, it could be like maybe the player, like at least here, they lack that opportunity to step on the field earlier because we can't step because there's a team training or playing beforehand.
Yeah.
So it automatically makes it so that they're not as in this moment as perhaps Christo was. And sometimes we evaluate the players that we're coaching as if it was us. And it's like, well, I would have done this. I would have been ready. I would have done this better. But thinking of your rituals, like, oh, snap, maybe this person doesn't have. And maybe it changes your warm up into your warm up aligns more with pointing out being in this moment, in the space. The other day I did a warm up where everything was in the air. I think we all have a more difficult time controlling the ball in the air than it is on the ground. So just pointing out this part of the game that is a mess and is harder to control. So it's just tapping into these weaker parts of and then you don't point these out, so you just let it happen. But it reminds you, and had I not had these rituals or these constant reminders that I always walk into spaces with weaknesses and that's okay, then I wouldn't be the coach, or I wouldn't have these practical approaches to the way that I coach. So yeah, I think it helps you also as a coach. If there's any coaches listening, do you have any ritual as a coach?
That's a good question. If I could get to training early, maybe I would. Yeah, I think like, it probably wouldn't change. Like I said, like I probably want to just get out on the field and walk around the section of the field that we'd be training in that day. And just, because like, I think like, as a coach, it's, I've done some volunteer coaching, but a lot of it is like, it's a job. So you can sometimes get, and, you playing at college, soccer was like, obviously like kind of your job, if you're getting like a scholarship to play, when I was playing, like, it was my job to go to training every day and then perform on the weekends. But as a, like, I think like coaching can sometimes feel, like more of a job, at least for me, maybe because like you have to manage like so many different players and this, and you're not just responsible for yourself. So I think that remembering why I'm there by taking a minute and listening to a song and walking around the field, and remembering all the good moments I've had and kind of like trying to translate that to the players I have. I think, when I am able to do something like that, I definitely do it. Because I think, I think it was, helpful for me as a player. I think, it's not even like I said, it's not about like preparing myself physically to go play in a game. It's about preparing myself mentally to go enjoy a game, go enjoy watching my team play,
Yeah. And I think, being in the car for so long as coaches, like you could throw that song on, and that could be the ritual. That's when
I can't close my eyes and imagine the field though.
Don't do it while you're driving. But, unless you have a Tesla. I don't think anybody in Arizona has a Tesla.
No.
Theo might get close.
Yeah, Theo. Gotta tell Theo to get us a raise so we can all have the.
Or get sponsored by Tesla.
Yeah, that too. I wanted to ask you something because I was thinking about it last night a little bit, and now like talking about rituals, it's come up again. So something I'm kind of we talked about coaching philosophies before, and I'm almost like trying to like figure out a way to work this into my coaching philosophy because it's become a very important part of my training. But I think that like we've talked about rituals and like creating like comfort and a sense of control, which I think is important when going into a match. When going into a training session, I think something I've been trying to do a lot is in my training sessions. My main goal is to stress the players that I'm working with, and then create a more comfortable environment on game day. So obviously, like, the goal is still improvement, development, all of that, and enjoyment. But I try to find ways to stress players in ways that don't feel like very like threatening. It's not like they're scared or anything, but like trying to create kind of like a more stressful environment in training sessions, because then when you go to games, it kind of like eases up, obviously more for older groups that I work with rather than younger groups. But this is something, and especially when I do individual sessions, I've had players tell me that their brains are hurting afterwards when they go home, because I make them like think and make decisions so much. Just kind of like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's like is that anything you've ever thought about? Like the balance between
increasing the amount of pressure and stress in order for them to feel more comfortable in game day? Is that more the question?
Like, kind of like manufacturing stress in training sessions so that it's like, I feel like a lot of coaches and for players, training is like a comfortable environment, and then matches are very stressful. I think that's exactly the opposite of how it should be, almost.
Yeah, I think with me, it varies on each team that I have. But it's a similar element. I think, I don't know if it's stress, but I think it's more intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to reach a moment in the practice where the word you would describe is relentless.
Relentless, yeah.
They're just going. And because I think all we do in practice can be seen in the game, but I think the speed in which it's done is in the game, where it will make, like, if you could do it quicker than the other team, if you can do it quicker, even after you've already done it once, because they're gonna read you. I think it's just more of like increasing the speed. And so I try, whether it's on the press or whether it's on the ball, and that may mean like limiting the touches so that they think quicker, or it may be one-on-ones where you're just dribbling and you're like, you got to get to the goal as quick as possible. Don't think about passing for 1 second. And so varying those drills, I think for the 07s, for example, I got to do more dribbling. For the 06s, I got to do a lot less dribbling. A lot less dribbling. But yeah, I think you gotta manufacture the meal to the person who's gonna go and take part of it.
I think stress gets it has like such a negative connotation to it. But like, if you like, what does stress actually mean? Yeah, like, stress is an opportunity. When you feel stressed, I thought, like, when you feel frustrated, like, that's good. That means you care about what you're doing, right? Like, if you didn't care about what you're doing, you wouldn't feel frustrated.
I get to your point. I think one of the things that I like to do is I like to put individuals. I feel like I have a little bit more influence on individuals, or in my relationships, I'll have a longer term impact on an individual than I will have on the full team. So, for example, Daniel, he's an 08, and I put him in the game with the 06's NPL. So not only is he an 07 player who I'm already pushing him to play a age up, but then I put him in an even higher age and higher level, like the NPL compared to any 08 team that he would play at this moment. And then I check in with mom and like, oh, how's Danny feeling? What does he say about the games? And she said he feels really nervous when it comes to these games because they're so talented. And so when she says that, I was like, okay, perfect, because imagine him coming back to the '07 game now. Like he's out, he's hanging out, like he not hanging out, but like his confidence level is so much greater. So also being careful with like not diminish his confidence. But that's, I guess, to your point of putting them in a scenario. And I think for me, the game, every single game is just a more intense training session. So I'm training Danny in games, or I'm using games as continuing to train Danny. And one day he'll be playing in high school, playing in college, and little things like that may help. So for sure, I think if you don't push the limits, you will never know where that limit is. And you need that in games. You know, that's going to be the differentiator.
I had one thing I wanted to say. You've never seen me coach like a full session, I don't think.
I don't think I've seen you coach a game. Have I seen you coach a game? I've never seen you coach a game or a full session. Well, I've seen you like when you're next to us. But I've never like just
like sat down and just just watched.
I feel like I need to bring my notebooks.
Maybe.
Film it.
If you ever get to well, I mean, we'll have a chance at some point. But when you do, I have the session already in my it's already in my head.
You should train my 07s or 06s.
You want to take my 2010 girls? No, that defeats the whole purpose. One day we'll figure it out one day. But yeah, this been definitely an interesting conversation. Obviously, took some trips down different paths, but always do. I think it's time for 3 key takeaways.
3 takeaways.
Oof, this is a tough one for me. I think I'll say creating a sense of comfort or control in environments that you find stressful. I think can increase your confidence in those environments. And, even if it's not, we talked a lot about like, kind of imagined control. It doesn't have to be control you actually have, because it just doesn't. If you feel like it's real, then that's real enough to help you. But creating some sort of feeling of control and comfort in stressful environments, I think that can do wonders for you. Whether that's from a ritual or anything, just good preparation, sleeping the night before, whatever it is.
Yeah. I would say make or point out some of your weaknesses. Or no, think of the things that you're best at and find your weaknesses in those things. I think only to understand that hasn't gone in the way of your performance. And it's as simple, like don't go deep, like weaker foot. Everybody has a weaker foot for the most part.
Except for me.
Except for Coach Christo. And I think the other player that I've seen it's not Rashford, is
if you said Rashford, I was gonna.
No.
I was leaving the call.
Winger? The younger one.
Sancho?
No.
Oh, Elanga?
No. What's his name?
Running out of wingers here.
He's really young. I don't know, but he has a good feet. Anyways, yeah. So as simple as that. I mean, you're a really good writer. You can only write with one hand. That hasn't stopped you from telling a story,
Yeah.
So just like finding these practical weaknesses that have not stopped you from expressing your talents.
Yeah.
I gotta add third one. Number 3 will be a ritual is only a reminder that the craft is not greater than you.
I like that. Yeah. No, I think that's good. All right. There you have it. The 3 key takeaways. After an hour of conversation about rituals. Yeah, thanks for watching or listening. We're on, my YouTube channel. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and we'll be back next week. Next week, we are talking about the most impressive play. So like a single thing that we've seen an athlete do in person. It could be something they did like multiple times.
Okay.
Yeah, or it could be just like one incredible goal. But yeah, the most impressive thing we've seen, it could be a teammate or opponent or just someone we watched, player we coached. But yeah, the most impressive thing we've seen. I have a great one for this. So it'll be fun.
Hey, also anybody that watches this podcast, we have summer camps open for registration. So
true.
I don't know whose link, what link, but we can add the link to.
Yeah, I'll put the link in the description. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best time to come in, work on off the season skills.
All right. Awesome. Thanks for listening and see you next time. Peace.